So welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Sound podcast. This will be a special episode because today we have a special guest here, Simon Bysshe.
What a mistake.
What a mistake. Like, okay.
Oh, it's not too bad. I get Bysshe.
Bysshe.
I get
Bysshe.
Bysshe, Bosh, Bash.
Bysshe. Bash. Okay.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you for coming today, Simon.
It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Simon worked on many films and TV series, like you can know maybe Hurt Locker, Succession, or Peaky Blinders. So, Simon, these are pretty big projects. But what have you been working on lately?
Okay.
Let's jump right into
jump into the now. Yeah. The last year or so has been quite busy. I was quite lucky to get onto a really nice, decent length 8-part Apple show called Varsity, which isn't out yet. Not much is known about it, so I probably can't say too much. Mm-hmm. But it's starring Leo Woodall, who's now quite well known for One Day, a new show on Netflix. So he's the star of One Day. So he's the lead in this new show for Apple. So we did that for the most part of last year, filming a bit in France, a lot in the Channel Tunnel, under the channel. Okay. So we're filming in the tunnel, which was complicated on trains, which is always a bit of a nightmare. And it's a bit of studio work, and then we're also filming in Cambridge. So it was about a mathematician who uncovers a deadly secret about math.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds really great. Yeah, nice.
That was good fun. And more recently, a show called Mr. Loverman, which is an adaptation of a book of the same name, which is about an Antiguan couple, two men who fall in love in the 60s when they're growing up in Antigua. They have to keep it quiet. They move to England, they get married, and they have a secret love affair throughout their marriages. Okay. And it's a very loving, caring, and thoughtful story, which is quite a lot of fun, and it kind of involves what it would mean for somebody who's in their 70s, because now we're in the present day, realizing it's about time they came out to their partners and became open that they were all this time in love with each other. And it's a very difficult thing to admit, especially when one's in your retired age. So it's a story about that, and that was a really lovely project to be involved in. And we only really recently wrapped in Antigua, so we finished the shoot in Antigua. Okay. Which was this time of year, January, beautiful weather, blue skies, beaches, very unusual.
Okay. Great. So that's the present, that's now. But how did it begin? Where does your passion for sound begin?
Oh, wow. I mean, I've wanted to get into filmmaking because I was always a real geek about movies and watching films when I was younger. I just really enjoyed being immersed in a film and just was wondrous about how these things happen and how they were made. I never thought I'd be involved in them, but I just enjoyed films so much when I was a kid. I'm sure a lot of people do, and it's not that unusual, but it was something that I enjoyed art and painting and sculpture and being creative in some ways, and also a little bit of technology and software, and I was really into video games. And one of the first things I ever really put video and moving picture and editing together is when I started shooting little documentaries about video gamers, professional video game esports players, and that allowed me to start making and editing videos myself, and doing that helped me get into a film school. And at the film school, it was clear that I had to specialize. And one of the things I said at my interview was that, I really enjoy the editing process, but what I find the hardest thing to do is the sound editing, because I do such a terrible job recording the location sound from the little onboard microphones on a camera that editing it and trying to make the sound edit work is the most complicated thing. But actually, if you can get it right, it covers up all of the cracks in the other parts of the editing, smooths it over. So I said, and he said to me, well, why don't you try out sound if you want to have a go at sound? And it was kind of offered to me on a plate. Why don't you give it a go? And I kind of took a dive and thought, all right, I'll do that, not really knowing what to expect, to be honest. Not many people really go into this industry with a full idea of what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like all the students that came to our university are like, nobody's coming do sound for movies. Everybody's like in love with sound, in love with music, but usually they are not like trained to do sound for movies, especially. So it's something that like finds you in a certain way. Yeah,
I think a love of music and maybe playing music, being in a band, is something that's quite common among sound people.
Definitely.
I used to play electric bass in a jazz band and a funk band and stuff. So I was kind of really into kind of music, and then we did some like demo CDs and stuff. So I guess a little bit of background, but really I still felt completely out of place at this film school. I didn't know what a 416 was or a boom pole. I thought they were expecting me to record music and compose music, and it's not something I'd ever thought I'd do. And thankfully it didn't turn out quite that way. But it is an unusual career path to go straight into. But I think it's a really rewarding one.
Yeah, and if you were into music and playing on the bass, do you ever recorded something for your band? Or
Yeah, we have a few tracks. You're not going to hear them.
yeah, but you were the sound recorders or you were just playing?
I was playing.
Okay,
yeah, I was
so
playing.
you never just recorded your band on your own or something?
Oh, no,
like
I had a dictaphone.
Okay, okay, nice.
Yeah, I've got some dictaphone recordings of
okay.
the worst quality
we
ever.
were recording our bands with the phones.
Yeah.
We always hidden the phone in the couch so we won't overload the microphone on the phone, because there was like Nokia and all stuff, so it was always hidden somewhere, and
Best
we
recordings.
really liked the recordings. Yeah.
Then you graduated, right? And how long did it take you to get really into the industry?
Oh, well, I did kind of... I was cheating because I got to visit quite a few professionals while I was still on the course. So on our sort of second year summer holidays, I spent a while emailing and, well, mostly phoning up mixers like Ivan Sharrock and Simon Hayes and really big names at the time. I thought, well, why not? I'll give them a call. Got nothing to lose. And I can genuinely say that I'm a student and I'm still learning, and can I just shadow you for a day or two? And that was that worked out really well, because I think once you leave, you are essentially thrown out into the freelance world, and you can't really ask to be paid if you have not a lot of experience. But then I found it quite easy to just say, well, listen, I don't want to be paid. I'm still a student. There's nothing to be paid for. I'd just like to watch and learn and just shadow you. And so I was able to spend a whole shoot with Simon Hayes. He was really generous. And then also I was working with a few other people over that time, with Simon Clark, and a couple of other sound mixers. I had a really good summer of work with professional sound recordists, and that taught me a lot and made me realize, yes, this is something I want to do. Having seen it in the flesh and seen how what it means to do a full working day, and I learned not to be late, and I learned the skill, watching people with the skills, and I thought, okay, wow, that's something to strive for, to have that level of professionalism, and it took me a hell of a long time to even start feeling confident on set. I was very green for a long time.
Do you remember the first day when you appeared on professional set? And,
like on a professional set, like the first job that was actually paid, maybe?
I mean, actually, my first proper job outside of uni was called Mr. Lonely.
Okay.
And it had Diego Luna and Samantha Morton. And it was absolutely bonkers. The director had done Julian Donkey Boy and Gummo. So he was an American, very avant-garde director. And it was almost entirely improvised. There wasn't really a script. Werner Herzog was in it.
What a lovely place to start.
It was mad. We were filming up in Scotland. It was so lucky. I thought everything was just gorgeous and wonderful. Yeah. So I had quite a lucky introduction, and I was working with two people who I'd got to know through doing the sort of work experience as a student. It was a really weird and wonderful film.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that was like a big shocker for you when you saw.
I was still not sure how to behave. That was, I think, the main one. Not showing where the boundary was to because you want to show that you are able and confident and capable, but you're not experienced enough to really be able to make calls about things. You have to you have to be respectful.
But I can imagine it could be quite shock because from school we are used to things like storyboards, scripts, and then you come to a show that's completely like improvised. So it's really, really different. That, for example, that I will be expecting as a student, because at the time when we were students, I think we were in the era like we were drawing storyboards and we were just telling about. We were just working with one camera, and it was very organized. I think it was the last organization that I think we ever had. It was in the school, but afterwards it was quite similar to Simon's, that it was quite shocking sometimes to be in the real world.
To found the frontiers. What's your responsibility? What's already the responsibility of the
other departments? And also the head of our university was teaching us that we should not be a part of other departments, like to tell the DOP how he should work. So usually we were just looking on our jobs, and we were happy that we can just boom and maybe record one track. So
how long did it take you to start being confident on set?
The step from assisting to booming is a really big jump, and I think a lot of people make that jump quite fast, especially if they're able to get on with someone and then suddenly their boom up falls unavailable, or then there's an opportunity comes up. You can elevate quite fast into boom up position, but I was taught that this is something that takes years and years and years from the boom ups who I was working with originally. Like Oren Beaton was one of the boom ups who I was lucky enough to sort of shadow, and you're looking at an assisting career of about 10 years in the case of many people who are now professional boom operators, do it for their whole careers. So I realized that it would take a long time before I would be paid or be looked at as a boom operator. So I guess it may be to get to that point and feel comfortable as a boom operator took a really long time. Possibly I was only ever really fully comfortable as a boom operator towards the end of my career as a boom operator.
Okay.
Because it's so much more than just swinging a pole in the air. It's about being able to know what to say to a director or to a cast member in a tricky situation with radio mics, or in a tricky situation on set where you need to ask for a certain light, possibly to have a flag, or if it's possible to do something with reflection. It's how you go about saying, how you go about asking for something. It's like asking for a favor, but it's a collaborative request, and it's about knowing the right way to ask for things without coming across as rude, I guess. And it's something that took me a little while to feel comfortable to know. I got to watch some great boom ops navigating around a set, and the way they would do things was so effortless that when I felt I was ready to, when I felt so confident that it wasn't difficult because you weren't thinking about it anymore. It was one of those small little things you might say, or you just find a way of getting other people to work with you and helping them out, and it's team play. So it did take me a while to feel super confident. I know at first I was pretty hopeless.
And did you at some moment realize that you are enjoying the stress of the shooting itself? Because for me, the thrill of shooting, that I need to capture the dialogue, the lines, but still not deep into the frame, and that's quite stressful. But at one point I found out that I thrive in that little bit of stress, which initially I was like, oh my God, I don't want this. I need to find another place where I can work, because this is too stressful. But then after time, I enjoyed so much when the first AD shout turnover. That's when, it is.
There's adrenaline, definitely. There's adrenaline that helps, because the first thing with booming is that you've actually got to have a pretty good memory of the dialogue. And so if you're doing a scene with quite a few people and they're delivering fast dialogue, your job is to remember those words and preempt things, and also be able to watch people's faces and see quite when they might jump in with a word. So I really enjoyed the thrill of being able to capture the dialogue of a group and be able to kind of preemptively place the microphone, but also just manage it, fly the mic around in such a way that it allowed for me to just drift onto things rather than overly commit to one thing or another. So I felt
it's like art sometimes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful when it works, and it's lovely to do. So I really enjoy boom operating for the thrill of it. But then the stress of it is that there's nothing between here. You're in shot, you ruined the take. It was lovely and it was a beautiful take. You know, there's so little to do. You've got a shadow just there. In a sound recordist is always trying to get you to be as close as possible. You get obviously the cleanest, juiciest sound when the microphone's nice and close, and this is what I want as well as a sound recordist. But as a boom op, to be pushed to the very limit and then know that there's a shadow just out of frame. And if I was to just do that, I would probably ruin the take. And then if you're working on a big film, then you're not just, there might be a big reset involved in that. And it might be not something you can easily fix in post.
Definitely.
So you're skirting on the edge of being asked to leave quite promptly. I was never fired, but I felt like there was a fairly good chance that if I screwed up one too many times, you know, your job is kind of on the line. So that's an added stress that that I guess, you know, you find a way around, you find a way to manage that and mitigate it.
And
look after your career by not pushing too hard when you don't need to.
Definitely.
Do you have some specific story about the most like terrifying or horrible mistake that you did on set or something like that?
I mean, there was a scene in The Hurt Locker where Jeremy Renner is he's been out and he's coming back into the American camp, and they're looking at him coming in and they think he might be some kind of intruder. So all the lights come on and they go down on the ground, down on the ground. He lies down on the ground. He's not wearing any of his usual khaki stuff. He's wearing kind of civvy outfit. So this was quite unusual that he wasn't wearing the army attire, which we had a systematic radio mic set up for. So I didn't know how the scenes were going to play out on Hurt Locker. It was 3 cameras. It was wild. We would film for 10, 15 minutes in a row, and it was 16 mil, 3 cameras on 16 mil. So there wasn't much room for error when it comes to going again. And so he's lying down on the ground, and then one of the cameras goes really low, and my mic rig on him was just as you might do, stick it to the skin.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, it's quite windy. I'll put on a great big furry white wind protection. And then this was like the last shot of a really long night, and it was a really big build up to this. And I realized, oh my God, he's lying on the floor and he's looking up like that, like at the camera. All I could see was a fluffy microphone bang in the middle of shot. And this was the last shot that we were doing that day, and we had no time to go again. And I did not know what to say. I knew that when they said cut, there was a radio mic right there in the middle of frame on his chest. How are you going to get around that? How are you going to fix that? Should I say something? Yeah. And I didn't know, because, you know, you should be straightforward and honest in many ways on set. You just have to come clean and say there was a problem with that. But I didn't say anything. I said no. Well, I said to Ray, the sound mixer, I said, oh my God, the mic was in shot, like really in shot. And we're all just congratulating each other and calling it a wrap.
Okay. I think everyone of us had this situation.
Yeah, definitely. And my first go-to is to tell the script.
Yeah.
And she usually just say, please just don't say this to the producer, and let's just move. Yeah. And did it ended up in the movie with the fluffy?
It's there. It's brief, but it's there.
Yeah. Okay.
They may have seen. It's funny. Sometimes they don't see things like that in the edit.
Definitely
They just don't see it in the edit, and it gets all the way through.
Yeah.
So I guess if they didn't see it, and then it got by. But it's the sort of thing that is alarm bells for me.
Are there any directors that you really enjoyed working with?
Yeah. I mean, I was a boom up on Hurt Locker, so with Catherine Bigelow was wonderful to watch directing. She was an incredible director, powerful. And she had a brilliant way of working with Barry Ackroyd, the DOP, and the cast, and she did an incredible job. But as a sound recordist, having a nice collaboration with the director was really nice. And I got really lucky because on my first TV drama that I worked on called The Tunnel, which was a UK-France collaborative job, which we went to Calais and back to Folkestone quite a lot. One of the directors on that was called Tim Malance, he just was really wonderful to work for. He found ways of making shots, taking a scene and making it work in one shot, or making it work in one shot with one insert. Like, he knew it. He knew the structure, and his way of talking to the cast was really innovative. I found that his directions were really pertinent in ways that you don't normally, he had weird things to say that inspired them to change their performance. And he got me on to Peaky. So I was able to, my second job as a mixer was Peaky Blinders, this third season that he was directing. He was directing all 6 episodes. So he got me onto Peaky, and he just had a really great way of using sound to help sort of enhance the performance. So he understood like how we can all work together to help enhance performance. It sounds like a sort of silly thing to say, but it's, yeah.
I think it's great when the director motivates you to do your job more in a more creative way, or something like that. I think that's the best possible scenario when you are a sound mixer or anything else.
Sometimes common in post-production, but to do this on location sound, I think is a really wonderful way and really great director, because usually they are concentrating on different things like visuals and they are caring about the sound more in post-production. But to have a director that's already so aware of sound on location is something like really beautiful.
So is there something specific that you can talk about, how you used sound for?
Here's a few things. Like there was a scene towards the end of the 3rd season where basically Tommy is telling his family, like, someone's going to have to go to jail for this, and that's the only way we're going to get around this situation. And it's a bit of a twist, because now they're all talking about how to get, what they're going to do with all the money. And he has to explain to them that he's made a deal with the cops. And as he's telling them this, the whole family's there, the whole cast basically are in his study. And basically the idea is on the script is that the police arrive outside, and they start bashing down the door, and they break their way into the house, and they get taken away. But the way that Tim wanted to do it is he asked me, he said, Simon, I want you to play the sound of a door being broken into, but go and record it, or go and get me some sounds of doors being smashed down, but I want you to play it on the take, on a speaker on set, but don't tell anyone we're doing this. We're going to surprise them, so that when the cast start hearing, crack, crack, smash, they'll have a genuine reaction. So I was like, okay, cool, this is fun. So we were in this beautiful old house trying to find a door that we were allowed to kick down for a sound effect. So we were running around trying to find somewhere where we could record this and really well. I could look for some door docking, but it would never be that great. So we were able to run about with one of my second units, record some door kicking, edit it together, put it into a little session, and then come the moment, press the button, and then hope for the best.
Nice.
Because what you don't want to do is it to not sound right, and it to not sound like it's coming from the other room. You don't want it to be too loud, because you're committing it. You're committing this sound to like the film. So it was great, and the first response to it was people were genuinely like, Paul Anderson was genuinely like, got to have his seat, and they all jumped up and they started screaming, and I just kept playing it and then overlaying it with other sounds, so it was like this big ensemble screaming of people and knocking. So it's things like that. He encouraged me to go a little further than you might normally go.
How stressful is it to work with such actors as like Cillian Murphy or Tom Hardy?
Very, actually. Yeah, I mean, Cillian's like such a lovely guy. Genuinely, he's a really, really thoughtful and considerate person, and I really enjoyed being around him. With what little time I was able to just have a conversation with him, natural, normal conversation, it wasn't that much because he was obviously so in demand. But when we did talk, he was lovely, and but I was sat there mixing these scenes thinking, oh golly, what I'm doing right now has got to be good, because there's all this quality. The cast were all so brilliant that you don't want the pressures on to deliver and to capture it as truthfully and as well as possible without compromising. So the pressure on me was just to deliver, to do it justice. I didn't want to feel like I missed something. So I always wanted to capture as much as I could of his voice, and Tom Hardy's voice especially, because the amount of time we were with Tom Hardy was so limited. His availability was cut because of Venom shooting and other films commitments he had. So I think it went from a week to about 3 days that we were with him for the whole of the season. So when we were with him, it was gold every time they could get him on camera, which was hard. So it would be about, well, obviously radio mic placement on him was quite tricky. He had quite a difficult outfit, but we ended up putting 2 radio mics on him just to make sure that we would capture it in case one wasn't quite right. And we did the same with Cillian quite a lot. But luckily, their voices, whilst they had a kind of grumble, kind of a throaty, the way they speak in Peaky is it's kind of quiet, but it's growling, like a gravelly sound. But they were all trained, vocally trained to project. So whilst it was quite a quiet grumble, it was a projected.
There was the energy.
Projected, yeah. So I was able to capture their voices really well because they delivered them to me very well. And it's a pleasure to record beautifully projected voices. So stressful but really super rewarding.
Yeah, it's when you have such a great voice on the set, it feels like it's almost finished, like post-produced sometimes. It's like sounding so huge, and like it's like you said, it's just cutting through, even it's whispering. Because Cillian had a really lower voice, and he was, you can just count the things when he was shouting. He was very calm.
There's very little
part
shouting
of his character, definitely.
But then the dynamic range with, say, Paul would be very different. There was a scene where he goes around a kitchen, he goes, no fighting, fighting. And that scene was the dynamic range on that scene, and the fact that it was a Steadicam shot, another one of Tim's specials, which would start here and go all the way around and 360 back and go there and spin there. So, from a boom operating point of view, you have to really figure out, well, what's the most important thing? Because at some point we're going to have to compromise and get over something or be around something. I might not get that. So the pressure was on to find a way to make the scenes work when they were super complicated and to prioritize those moments and the volume changes. That was fun.
Do you remember some exact moments, some exact scene from the 3rd series that you did, that you will remember forever? Like it was really tough.
I mean, we had scenes where there was a romance going on between Tommy and this Russian lady, and she was quite wild. And quite often there was a sort of a love scene, and she was semi-naked, and this whole scene was happening as she was sort of taking clothes off, walking down a stairwell, and the scene continued all the way down to the ground floor. And the idea was that you can be naked in your own house, and the servants won't, we're used to this, the people will just ignore this behavior. This behavior is not normal. That you're rich now. You should, this is the privileged lifestyle you should be used to now, Tommy. And so he was seeing this attitude. And anyway, for this scene, we had to find a way to capture her voice as she was walking down the steps with only a small shawl on, and to allow her to slowly undress throughout a scene as well. So we had mics rigged with transmitters in 2 outfits, and then as she took them off, she was taking a mic off, but she was keeping another one on because we just couldn't get the boom where we really needed it to be for some of this scene. So those were quite stressful, but those stuck with me. Certainly had a moment where I was really worried, where we were told, whatever you do, don't damage this car. It's absolute classic.
The Bentley.
And they arrive at a scene, they're all 3 of them in the back of the car, the brothers, and we rig mics in cars, and they do the dialing in the car, and then we'll have to go next location. So we're like, right, we're going to get the mic out. Okay, we're going to take the guy looking after the car. We're going to take the mic out. Is it okay? We put it there. So we take it out, and everything's like, yep, it's all out of the car. And just as we're leaving the car, gust of wind, and the side door of the car just went smash, and the door, because they had the handles on the outside, the handle on the outside then smashed into the side of the car and left a massive dent. And it was like, oh great, the very last thing we touched, and then the wind just so sadly that's one of my memories from Peaky is having to own up to a damage on a Bentley.
And how many mics did that lady have?
That was walking down the stairs.
Oh, I mean, she didn't have any on her skin. We weren't able, so two. Yeah.
Okay.
Was not possible to get like something.
No, we know hair rigs are kind of tricky. You know, trying to get that to work. I've done a few hair rigs, but they're great when they work. But quite often, actually, you think about it a bit too late if you don't know how difficult it's going to be, and I wish we just did that 45 minutes ago before they got to set. Because once they're on set and their hair's in place, and you trying to then do it is quite difficult. So that requires a bit more of a 2020 vision of the past.
So you had this feeling, like I also have this feeling, like every time when I do the scene, after I know, like I will do it like completely maybe like this, but it's always like after the scene a new idea will came. Is it also sometimes it happens to you?
Yeah, mild regrets about choices, I guess, for sure. I've had a few times where I thought, I wish I went a bit further and dealt with that background noise or something. But on the whole, I try to not let that weigh me down too much. And I think I try to carry on, because you've got to stay focused on the next thing you're doing.
Definitely, like there's the next scene and you need to nail the next scene. So definitely.
Is there some difference that you can talk about between British and American production? Because you have worked on both of them. So can you compare them? What's the difference in like work morale or I
mean, I haven't done that many American productions as a sound recordist, but the one that stands out would be Succession, when I got very lucky to be the mixer for the first season when it came to the UK for the final 2 episodes of season 1, which was the wedding sequence. It was all filmed in Wales and in this big country house, and it was a huge production, big unit bases, huge setup, a lot of prep, a lot of time to organize. But it was all quite overwhelming for me. And we were at the recce at the big house, and the DOP called Pat saw that I was quite, that it was all a lot flow coming at me. And he just came up to me on the recce and he sort of put his hand around me and he went, "Don't worry, Simon, I've got your back. We're all on the same team here. We'll look after you."
Did you know him before?
No.
So it was the first time we met?
It was the first time we sort of properly met. And it was like, that's really nice.
Such a huge support.
Yeah. And he wasn't kidding. He really did have my back. And he would talk to me before a scene and say, "This is what we're doing." But it was always be a bit of a good luck, because their style of filming, and it was an introduction to the American style of filming, is 3 cameras. We're going to film anything simultaneously to capture. Actually, 2. I'll be fair. It's 2 cameras. 2 cameras. They had a third, but most of the time they would have both sides of a scene. They would find a way to get both cameras in to capture both sides of a conversation, or at least be able to move around a scene in a way which wasn't very traditional form of coverage, mostly zoom lenses.
Okay.
So it was, what it was nice is that as a group, they were already a family by this point, and I was sort of coming into it, and they'd filmed 8 episodes already, cast included. They were a really coherent bunch of people and obviously incredibly skilled. And I felt like, I'm a bit of an outsider in this, but they were super welcoming and they were very, very helpful. And I felt like that there was a vibe, a very generous and kind of fun vibe on set, which I hadn't really experienced, which was all about just like celebrating a good take, nice. Celebrating a scene, and clapping and being joyful and being upbeat. And that's something that we don't tend to do very much in the UK.
Yeah, I think also at our production is not something that's very common. Only clap for Martini shot.
It's the end of the day. Celebrate. It's the end of the day. It wasn't like that. It was like there wouldn't be, we're going into overtime. It wasn't that at all. It would be, yes, that was great. That was a great scene. And there would be positivity, and then at the end of the day they'd play music and stuff. And
nice.
I just felt like there was a collaborative feeling to it that made you feel extra welcome and extra kind of cared for. So I liked that particular American production for sure.
I have some similar experience, but it was British production. But I never saw this in Slovakia, that we had an overtime, but it was like overtime like 15 minutes or so. They always told us that, yeah, we need an overtime and it will be 15 or 30 minutes. They exactly told us. And after these 15 minutes, a producer went and cheered everyone that thank you very much for this hard work. And that was something that I never experienced before. And for me, that was like, okay, I'm happy to be here tomorrow because of this, even though I am extra tired. But this guy just thanked me for my effort.
It's nice when productions show you the work you've done as well. And it is tricky for productions to do like little edits of things. But on my last job, Mr. Loverman, they were able to show us a couple of weeks into the shoot, like a little cut of what we'd filmed so far and played it out on set. And that really was like, wow, that's great. You know, feels good. You know, they showed us some of the scenes cut together and it was nice. It was nice to see it because I get to see rushes. So I get to enjoy the rushes with the sunk sound, but then the rest of my team don't get to see rushes. You know, it's a little bit of a thing you're not really allowed to share. So I think it's nice for production to allow the team to see what they've been making.
And when you are filming and recording such scenes like on Succession, are there any techniques that you use to capture extra material, like wall tracks or Atmos or something like that?
I'm conscious that in post, obviously what we do is we silence so much in order to capture clean dialogue. Yeah. So you're leaving an awful lot to be filled in later. And I'm always conscious of, this is a unique environment. We've got 80 extras in this very unique acoustic environment. And I'm never going to be able to ask, okay, let's get a group chat now for 5 minutes and I need someone applauding and I need someone clapping and I want some laughter in this. And you could go on all day just trying to get that. But you can't always get everything you need on set, but you can try the best you can with the time you have to get something. And so what I tend to do is I'll always have an Atmos boom on the trolley or out on set in a place which will allow it to hear the Atmos of the set without hearing the dialogue. So if that means if it's in a cafe and we're near a road and there's hearing the traffic passing, then I'll try and get my Atmos boom so that when I listen to it, I'm hearing a very similar background noise to the boom on set, but just without the dialogue. It has a similar sound. It hasn't got a hiss or a fan. I try to get it as close as possible. If that means putting the mic on the floor above and opening the window slightly, then I'll get the Atmos mic on the floor above. Or if it means just putting it outside for the whole take, so we've just got the atmosphere from outside that they can then alter and make it sound like it's, more muffled. Yeah. I will try to always give them during the take an Atmos track that they can use. And then beyond that, I will, if we're, say, in the same restaurant situation or even in a big, like in Succession where we had all these crowd scenes, I will be encouraging, say, for example, during rehearsals, for the background to talk and chat. So we have takes, that gives everyone a sense of level that they should have, but also that also allows me to record the sound of the room chatting during. So we have a recorded rehearsal. I record the sound for all the rehearsals. They don't know I do, but I do. It's like a free wild track. But I'll allow I will grab the Atmos then. But if people are just chatting between takes and it feels right, then I'll get the boom. Go over there. You go over there. You go over there. And then I ident a little wild track. And there you go. We've got a genuine sound of a room of people enjoying themselves. And hopefully you don't get too many ADs shouting during it.
Or walkie-talkies,
Yeah, so, you can't get the 5 minutes of perfect wild track. I'll get the dialogue wild tracks whenever I possibly can if I feel I'm missing a line or two or something. But I love trying to get the environment wherever we happen to be working. And if we can, I'll take a second unit and give that to our trainee and ask them to go off for an hour or two and record the sound of Soho or record the atmosphere of wherever we happen to be. So, yeah.
One more thing about location sound.
Yeah.
How do you work with your team on set?
All right.
What's your workflow? How do you divide your roles and so on?
I try to get two boom operators, two properly fully paid boom operators with me, and then if I can I'll have a trainee as well, or if I'm lucky enough to get an assistant, it'll be assistant. But my last job, it was a trainee role, and so two boom operators, meaning that one of them would focus on radio mics, and then the other would always be on set. And then primarily we have 2 booms covering the dialogue, which is usually enough. Sometimes you need 3, depending on the scene. But during a take, I tend to talk to my team. I have a little mic on my headphones, which is very, very close to my mouth. And so I'll talk to my team during takes. Okay, get down. So if you're booming for me, you will hear me. If instead of saying, I can't verbalize very well during a take, I can only make sounds. So it'd be like, and so you'll see the mic going down and then coming back up again. So, and anyone near me during a take will think I'm going totally mad. But yeah, so that's how I communicate with my team, through weird noises during takes.
Okay.
And then after a take, we will talk about it. We will totally talk about what just happened, and if there were things that we could fix. And we're always like, okay, so what at that moment, what can we do? We'll always discuss ways we can improve it. So I feel like as we go on throughout a series of takes, there'll always be small improvements we make, and without making too much fuss. I always try to be a low-key department. I don't like to jump on set and be loud and be fussy particularly. I will use influence to make things happen without having to physically go on set, or without having to.
So what needs to happen that you go to set? Because normally you are somewhere remote.
It's weird. It's like quite often we do film with 2 cameras. So we all understand the problem sometimes for sound with 2 cameras. This one will be much wider than the other. I will try to allow quite a lot for that to happen, so long as I'm confident the radio mics will be good, and that this is a scene that I don't want to compromise. If I really want it to be on the boom, and I feel like I'm not going to be able to get it on the boom, and the close is really requires it for the kind of scene it is, then I will say something. I will go and I'll speak to the director, and I'll explain my situation, and I will maybe ask the DOP. So that would be something that I would ask. I don't think I would ask my team to make that call, but they would probably flag that to me before we got too close to it being a thing. But I've kind of had to go onto set. Yeah, if things have got if there was one situation where we were filming in a stage, and there had to be a big light above the set. They couldn't build it with a ceiling piece. And the stage itself wasn't very well soundproofed. So if you clapped your hands outside of the set, you would hear the reverb bouncing all around this hard floored stage. So it wasn't properly soundproofed at all. And so by having most of our sets in there had a ceiling piece, but this particular one didn't have one ceiling piece. And after doing the first take and realizing that this scene was a lot louder than I anticipated, and they shout, and you can hear the sound of their voice leaving the set, bouncing around, coming back onto the set again through this hole in the ceiling. And it was like they should be in a shack in Antigua. We're giving it away. We're giving away that this is not that location. And I was worried that was a problem. So after the take, I came and spoke to the DOP and the director. I said, I'm really sorry. I think either can we look at some kind of ceiling piece for this, or is it possible to do this at a lower level, or just that moment at a lower level? I knew I was asking a lot, because that's changing the performance. And because I was speaking to both the DOP and the director, DOP realized that this was not a thing that was going to change, and that wasn't the right answer. But he helped me out massively. He was able to put a little bit of a drape under there, and he got some poly, and he put it over the half of the ceiling piece that didn't need to be open. So we were able to quickly add to the set to make it a little bit more, reduce the amount that goes out and comes back in again. Because you do your best you can, but sometimes you can't preempt some problems. And that was one time during that job that I had to stop it after a take and go, we have to do something to make this a little bit more real.
Because me as a boom operator, I'm always on set and I'm trying to resolve as much as I can. But sometimes it's just like I tell to Viktor, Viktor, this is the thing that head of department must resolve. It's I'm like not too high in the hierarchy to tell this to the other guys. So please come. So
we had such a scenes that the first call was to the AD, then to the director, and lastly to the producer, and just if it's possible that you have the producer and he's really likes you and he wants you to have you on the project because of your skills, and you will tell him that we need something to capture the original performance, and the producer is always helpful, even more maybe than the director, because he's financing the movie and he wants the results. So it was also like the last choice for me is the producer. So like to go to the highest. Yeah. But usually I'm trying to keep it low. Yeah. This is 1 or 2 times per project maybe, or it's really like you have one card that you can use per the project.
One joker.
One joker, yeah.
Okay, so let's move to URSA STRAPS, the company that you are known for.
Sure.
So, at what point in your career came the idea to, come with these products, beautiful products that you offer to us sound guys?
Well, I've been really lucky. There are a lot of people who kind of, I'm sure, were looking at solutions to straps because that was a common problem. A lot of people, when they came to set, everyone had their own systems. So one sound recordist would have sort of elastic straps with sewn on Velcro at either end, and some of them would be multicolored, some of them would be stripy. You could see some of them probably hadn't been washed in a while. Okay. And so, it was pretty clear that there wasn't a singular kind of source of good products that was custom made for this purpose. They were all being bodged by various costume departments for sound or the partners of sound people. Yeah. And my partner Laura, who we met on a film set, she's a costume. She was a standby. She was then a costume assistant for many years, assistant designer. Now she's a costume designer. But her real, her skill and a lot of her training was in making and construction of garments. And so she really understood how it is to manufacture a garment and make a garment. And so when I went to her quite early on in our relationship, there's can you make me some elastic straps? And so she kindly did. But obviously going that bit further than people maybe normally get, because she went to the trouble of dyeing them the right color. So I had some brown and some beige straps. And then at the time we're thinking, can you put a color tab on it so I can kind of see if it's a color, what color it is on the tab, to see what length it is. At the time, it wasn't the material that we use today, but it was an elastic. And she discovered a particular material from a company that she brought it home one evening and said, what do you think of this for a strap? And it was wow, well, okay, let's see if we can buy some of that. And so I was thinking, I would love you to make some straps for me out of that, please. That'd be great. Because, you want something, selfishly, you want something that's going to help you stand out and add to your range and what you can help provide for production. So I wanted them for me. So she did make me some. And then it was pretty quick that I was working with other sound recordists. They also would like some. When I wasn't working for them, they wanted some for their own supply, so I was asked to build it up, and it kind of became a thing, which was highly unexpected, to be honest. And it grew when I thought, sod it, I'll do a video and put it on Facebook, just to show this is the strap. So during a lunchtime on a job, I got my boom up Stefan to just pull out his iPhone and film me showing how to use a thigh strap. So just a quick video for you guys to show the URSA thigh strap. And that video just took off in ways I had no idea it would. And it really introduced loads of people to what we were doing. And suddenly we had calls from all around Europe and America, all around the world almost, straight away, can we get these straps? Nice. And it came out of nowhere. And so we then had to figure out a way of upping the scale of the production and making more and really treating it much more seriously. And it grew pretty quickly from there. And luckily, I was able to manage both things at once. Nowadays, we've got a manager who looks after the business and does the ordering, keeps all things ticking over, which allows me to be a sound recordist and still do workshops and still travel and still do events and still sort of work on new products, but also do what I really love doing, which is working as a production sound mixer.
Viktor, do you see the same as I do? When I first like had the URSA strap in my hand,
Yeah.
for me it was like, oh yeah, what is this material?
it was like
it
revolution,
instantly set the benchmark.
Yeah.
It was like nothing
Immediately.
else was quite as good,
I
and it was
only
really-
remember one other thing. It was called Neopax.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was the only thing that was available. This
Yeah.
was really like thick.
It was like made
And-
for sweat.
Yeah, and the actors really hated it, and they
Yeah.
didn't want to wear them. So we are trying to find a way to put the like not to use the straps, but to put it somewhere with the clips on the clothes. And
Yeah.
suddenly, when the straps came in, we will just put the clips down. From the day we will start to use the straps, we'll get rid of completely get rid of the clips
Yeah.
from the transmitters. Yeah.
Because we don't need them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are not using. For example, when I bought now the new transmitters, I even did not put the clips on because we are always using straps. And now with the pouches and with everything, it's really like quick and really easy.
Yeah.
So it's
Cool.
yeah,
No, it was like it came from, as a boom operator, radio miking a lot of cast and just knowing, oh gosh, I know. I mean, I tried wearing straps myself for long periods of time, and I sort of knew how they feel, and I kind of had a bit of empathy for them having to wear these things and spend a whole day sweating in them, and so I really wanted something that was comfortable and that they could forget that they were wearing. Most importantly, they could put it on. It would just then, oh well, they just walk off set with it, and it wouldn't bug them. So I think I had something about I am very sensitive to uncomfortable things that I wear. So that sort of like that kind of became a factor of like, if it can pass me not being fussy with it, then I think most people will be okay with it. But so it was about just making the relationship with sound and costume closer, hoping that that would help the relationship between the two departments by having lots of different options and different colors. And then also, hopefully, the cast would be more comfortable wearing radios, because at the time, radios weren't always the go-to solution, and there would be sometimes a bit of pushback if you had to put on a radio. They'd be like, why? Why? What's wrong? We're good on the boom. We've been working with the boom all my career. Why do we need radio mics? It was like that.
I think radios now are like the go-to thing. It's for me, I'm counting like how many radios I will bring. That I'm just reading the script, and on every scene I'm just writing the number of the actors, and it's like normal for me to have a wireless for every actor. So even if sometimes they are not talking, they are breathing, they are making some performance that you want to capture. So we get often like the question, why you are putting radio mic on this actor? He doesn't have any lines.
I have a great story about this, but it's like we had an actress, she was quiet.
Yeah.
Like really quiet, but she was breathing a lot and so on. So usually we put a wireless microphone on her all the time. But this one time, in the script, she did not have any line.
Yeah.
So we wanted not to bother her and so on. So we did not wire her.
Yeah.
And then during 7th take, she said something.
Okay.
Like proper line.
Okay.
And then I was like, I was on set, so I immediately told to everyone. She said a line, we need to wire her, to everyone inside the department. And right after, I went to tell this to first AD.
Yeah.
He was like totally mad. Why are you wiring an actress after 7th take?
Yeah.
And he was like, he stuffed us totally in front of producer and so on, that we like, why do we do this now? It's very late in the day and we will have overtime because of this. And yeah, this is it. That's why you pretty much always wire all the actors, because they can improvise and that can help you.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, in post, I've sat in and watched dialogue editors work on the tracks that I've recorded, and it surprised me how much they will choose the radio over the boom. Even when the boom's there, they'll choose the radio if it's good sounding. They'll choose to use it instead of the boom because it has a consistency from the beginning to the end. It has a consistent sound that they can work with. Rather, sadly, the boom sometimes, you're going from different sizes, it will have a different acoustic response, and it might not be as consistent as a radio. So even if it is on the boom, I've seen dialogue editors prefer to use the radio. and that seems to be a trend. And I know with productions they will want everyone radiomic'd, as that's the style of the show.
What's your most valuable equipment that you think in your kit?
I mean,
is it the radio mics that we use so often today, or
it's the person that puts on the radio mic?
Okay, nice one.
It's not really the mic itself or anything about the technology. It's the boom operator. It's the person. It's the skilled operator of the boom, and it's the skilled operator of the wire. I can do only so much sat behind the mixing desk, asking for this and that, and fading things up. You know, I can only do so much. And I'm reliant on my team on set to deliver consistently throughout the day, be it right at the end of the day, right in the middle of the day, in the middle of a 100-day shoot. And having a strong team is the best piece of equipment. But if you want to know kit, if there is a single piece of kit that I really like, I've got to say that the game changer for me has been the Scorpio.
Okay.
I didn't think I would fall in love with it as much as I have, but the combination of the Scorpio, the CL16, all of the options, all of the routing, the talkback system, I think they've built a really nice bit of kit there.
What would you advise to someone who wants to start doing sound or just to start in film industry in general?
Okay,
because it's really difficult.
Yeah. Oh, it's a difficult industry to get into. It's not completely walled off, but you know it's quite difficult to get into if you don't already know somebody in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who get into it through their parents or through other people that their parents might know. So if you aren't lucky enough to have the boot upwards through nepotism, which is sadly quite happens in quite a lot of industries, then you'd be looking basically is being proactive and showing passion through your own activities to show that use is something that you want to do. So if it's not these days, it's possible to make short films on a very low budget and to edit on your own home computer and film your own pieces and show that you have an ability and you want to do something. So I just say that, you know, make stuff. Don't limit yourself and go out and make stuff with your friends or yourself, and just pick something that you're already passionate about. You know, for me, it started with video games, and it wasn't difficult for me to be interested in making things about that subject. And that was the starting gun for then other people to see that, you know, I was passionate about this and that I had an interest in something beyond the extracurricular. And then the next step is to, you know, make those slightly awkward cold calls and try to shadow a professional. And that's really the best way to learn on set or to learn in situ, if you can, by finding, if you can, people are available. You can find the details online. It's not impossible to get in touch with people either through Instagram, Facebook, through some guilds. There's the guild in the UK called AMPS. That's very open to people contacting them and contacting the members of guilds. To any sort of department, there will be a guild that represents them that you can use to contact people in it. Either, something along those lines.
Yeah, so I think we can wrap it up with these beautiful advices, and thank you for listening or watching our podcast Beyond the Sound, and stay tuned for the next episodes.
Yeah, it was lovely to have you here, Simon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, Simon.
It was great. Enjoyed it. Cheers.
Yeah.
Hello. We will have something to the subtitles.